Hello everyone and welcome again to a new session of developing Notula. So off camera I have finished everything regarding the whole organization selection, logging in, and those kind of things. So today we can start working on the actual core of our application, which we will start by creating a meeting. I was thinking, but yes, no, that's how I do it. Whether or not I do this single or not. So is it meeting or is it meetings as a package? Is it organization, organizations? But I think singular makes more sense. Do I have a... And then we're gonna start. I'm gonna do top down on this one. That's my test. That's also not bad, of course, because I have to immediately create a test. Okay. New folder, meeting. Actually, what I can do is I can just say go to test and say generate test, which is not always very correct, but well, I mean, like it is correct, but it generates it in a way that like the public classifier in front. It's not required, not needed. You can leave it, but you can also just delete it. Why not? So yeah, we're definitely gonna have a get all. So I am and a create as well. So maybe I should just copy all of this and then comment out what I don't need. That's probably best. Boom, boom. Okay. So this has to go up. Good. This is now the meeting controller. This we have to import and import. And then I'm thinking session I did update it to have an organization, so this will be fine. Why can I? Sometimes the import doesn't properly work, and then the funny thing is if you do it somewhere else, then it does work. Okay, but it's saying twice the exact same thing. Also importing. Anyway, so I will show you that I've to have an actual organization in there. And so the desktop one, actually I'm gonna I should rename this because like what do you mean desktop one? This I should actually rename with the organization. And this I should say that it has no organization. And I think this still matches what I have in the database. Yes, 117. No, yeah. Okay. So that's why this will have yeah. For some reason I still have the exact same issue that I used to have before, and I did complain about this. They're saying that my annotations, they have to be, for instance, what I can't do. I will show you. I'm going to duplicate annotation for a second. What I can do, for instance, is saying here, well, this actually is my meeting controller test.session. It says the value for annotation session value must be an enum constant expression. I'm pretty sure this is an enum constant expression. This is exactly the same as a private static. It's final. It's an enum. I don't see the problem with any code of this. This should just work, but it doesn't. What is it actually? It's value test session, yeah, see? So it fails to see that this actually is like a constant, which is quite annoying. I've had this before as well. The funny thing I think is that if I run this with Maven, then it's fine. So it is something related to the compiler with being used here because it doesn't use my OpenJDK and it doesn't use. I think this uses the Eclipse compiler. But anyway, so yeah, nothing much I can do there. Well, I did make a ticket once for the team, and then since then they've mentioned that they fixed it. But I'm not sure if this is now a regression or whether now. So I don't know whether it's a regression or whether they fixed it, but not for enums and only for strings, because I think back then it was about strings. So yeah. And an update just killed my video. What is, wait, no, what's going on? Give me a second. That's my update. Okay, we're fine. It says I have to restart my computer, but I'll do that later. Probably not a good idea to update your machine while you are actually busy streaming as well. Okay. This, oh my god, it is old. Does it mean I should update this as well? Yeah, see, it's even complaining about it. That's something I will actually do. Oh, I should do this really offline as well. Like getting rid of all these. Oh my god, really are a lot. All these remarks, this how is it, warnings. Uh, Problem. This was introduced in Java. Which Java was it? The tool list. So you can see if you click on it, if you go to it, because they typically mention it with a since 16. So which is weird. I wrote like this because I started off with JDK 21. Okay. Anyway, what is this principle? I will see what I need when I need it. So when organization service, that's a bit. Is that ridiculous? Yeah, I'm not going to need any check on the organization service. So this will be my meeting service. Here as well, this will become meeting service. Meeting service. Yes. This of course doesn't exist. I will do a get all and I'll pass the principal, and then it will return my list of meeting info. And this is not going to work, so I need a test meeting, and then I will say here meetings. This is test meeting, I guess. List of not organization. Huh. So this is a question now. Is this useful? Is this not useful to have the meetings on top or not? I mean, like in one way it does because it is shared, but on the other side, of course, I mean, like the question is like even doing it here, does this actually make sense? I mean, like yes, okay, you have this nice information, you have the session. Session itself actually not being used anywhere. Okay, interesting. You have the organization. Okay, yeah, so you have one location to change it. But then again, oh, this can also be changed lambda function expression. I mean, like in the end, it doesn't really matter that much because it already is an enum. It already is something separate. So see the principle. It shouldn't be the user principle. Technically, it should actually be the principle of here. Is this actually correct? Do I? Oh, I still have to update this apparently. Organization ID is not part of this logic yet, which does kind of make sense because I don't have any endpoint yet that requires you to have the organization ID in there. So my test code indeed will not have it yet. Okay, but doesn't matter. So it actually means that now I will have, so I'm just going to leave this as this now. This will actually cause issues now. This also doesn't make sense. Still, yeah, well, this is one of the things I then have to fix as well because user principal doesn't make any sense anymore. It should be session principal because my user, there's no such thing. I mean, the organization has to be part of it as well. When get response organizations, expected response builder get endpoint. My endpoint has to update as well. Yes, API meetings. You'll actually see that I don't do any versioning currently. This might be a very bad idea because you don't future-proof yourself in case you have to make changes. But since it's only internal API, honestly, I don't really care too much about it. And on the topic of versioning, now that I've started it, then there are multiple options to versioning. Of course, you can do like version negotiation with headers, and you can do those kind of things. You can how you can so do. I think you have three big approaches. One is like putting it as like a type of a header, and then your actual controller. You can say something here with like you can differentiate somewhere in here in your controller, saying like, this is version 1, this is version 2, and whatever. That was an option. The second option, I actually don't remember what the second option was. And the third option is the most common option, and that actually is that you have it, you put it in your endpoint. That's also the one I've used or seen used the most. And so then you have API slash version slash meetings. So the question then, of course, becomes like, do you do API slash v1 slash meetings, or do you do API slash meetings slash v1? I mean, the first makes a lot more sense. Why? Because if you want to extend your path with the ID, for instance, well, then there you have it. If you want to do a meeting, and then you want to say, for instance, this is a topic on the meeting, or you want to have the attendees, for instance. I'm just saying stuff. Topic definitely. Attendees, I'm not sure if I would do attendees like this. Maybe you want to do tasks. I mean, like, you want to extend it like this makes sense. If you do meetings v1, then how are you going to extend this? You can't really. The only downside, of course, is if you ever want to make a v2. Let's say you have meetings and then you have other core concepts as well. Let's say nodes, which of course in our case everything will be underneath the meeting actually. So, but let's say you're a store. You're a store, so you have like a catalog, and then you have customers. You have API slash v1, or well, you mean catalog. Or let's say you have products. You have products. You have sales, all the things you've sold. What the hell? So you have all these things. You have products, customers, sales, inventory, I guess. Yeah. Inventory is not really a, well, inventory is a resource, but you can't have multiple inventories. Well, maybe you can have. But so anyway, let's say you have multiple endpoints. And now if you want to make a v2, does that mean you're going to make a v2 of everything? Or you're going to make a v2 of one? So let's say, for instance, you've completely redesigned how your sales thingy works. So, okay, you have v2 of sales, then everything else stays v1, which I mean, to the client is a bit like, they have v2 of sales. Is there no v2 of anything else? No? How come? Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna come? Like, why is it not there? So this is confusing because you can't say like, okay, I use version 1 of their API or I use version 2 of their API. No, you have actually have a mix. You have version 1 of the API and you have version 2 of the API. And it all comes down basically to what the version number actually is pointing to. Is the version number pointing to the API or is it pointing to the endpoint? And so that's why it might seem a bit weird if you have API slash products and I say v1, then it's like, ah yeah, this is actually v1 of the products. API slash customers v1 and API sales v2. So I mean, like this makes sense. As I said, you typically don't do this because of the extensibility. It makes sense when you say, ah, API products v1 and with 1, then you're gonna do the ID of your products. Like what? Like what do you mean v1? Huh? The v1 in there ruins it. So this is not typically what you do. This is what you typically do. API, then you do version, and then you actually do your endpoints. But anyway, I'm not doing any versioning right now because it's an internal API, it's a private API. I can make the changes I want whenever I want. So no need to do versioning. And actually, I am very interested in trying out the other way of versioning, which is more with it's not content negotiation, but it's something with a header. I have to look it up again. For instance, you can also like have an API, and you can say like, oh well, we use JSON. Well, you don't have to only accept JSON. You can say like, well, we accept JSON, we accept XML, and there as well you can say content type, and based on that you can actually differ to or send to a different endpoint. So I mean, like it is pretty interesting, and then you can do. You probably don't want to do. Well, you have to do different in your controller for serialization and stuff, but that's create meta status. I don't want to create meta status, probably because he doesn't have all of this present. Okay, that's a bit annoying. Single, where's my none? Where's my empty? Because I want to start with empty and okay. Single, multiple, so I'm going to comment it out, and then I have none. This is test meeting. Maybe I should just rename all of them. And so if you see this and you're probably thinking like, well, I mean, every time I do this, I think like I should not just have copied it because I have more work in actually renaming everything. Meeting service get principal and return info. Well, actually, this should just return none, so I don't understand why do I even do this? I mean, yes, this keeps a consistent structure with all the rest, but it's a bit, it obfuscates the whole. See, here I've done this one. I did change my response, so that does make sense. Okay, so this can go away. I'll comment all of this out because I don't need it. Get responses. My create, all of this can also be commented out for now. Yeah, that's definitely what I wanted in IntelliJ. Oh my god. If I collapse it and then I select, I have to make sure I select all of it. So maybe like this. And then it has not, yeah, okay. I'm also actually a bit, that's probably because of me, because I do edits and then it is or selection and then you have comments. Somewhere, I don't know what it is. Toggle line comment. I do always control plus dash, where probably I should do, in this case, a block comment might have been more easier. Control shift A. But I'm so used to control, not dash, control slash forward even. That's just what I do. Anyway, okay. So our goal is now to just get this working. And the first thing we will do is import some static stuff. And then make sure that we remove the yeah, okay, maybe not all of that. I mean, I'm just gonna remove the duplicates for now. I removed too much, okay. I still need the other ones. Meeting service doesn't exist, of course. Okay, so my none should be kind of fine. Oh, I probably removed them now anyway. Yeah, because I saved. So I will already make a new file, meeting service, and that is here at service. And then I can here okay, go to the subject, meetings. Now I do have a base controller, yes, extend base controller. And I think I did try to look into like annotations, putting them on this. Convert this base controller class to a concrete class with a private constructor. Why can't this be an abstract class? Few problem. Why is that? No, it's under quick fix, of course, because reading or showing the issue is a quick fix. The person actually wants to provide some heritable behavior, also defining methods which must be probably because yes, okay, yeah, indeed, because I have no method that I say like this should be in this is yeah. It's because none of my stuff actually is I don't have any abstract methods. So what's the point of having an abstract class? Just make it a concrete class, but then private constructor, yes. Private constructor? Actually, it doesn't even make sense. Convert a concrete class with a private constructor. Private constructor means you can't use it. These are protected, so you still have to inherit it, but that does mean that people can just no, people can't create because it's a private thing. Yeah, no, indeed, that's correct. Private constructor will work. No, okay. Something else I have to do again. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so we have our controller, and I think actually for the time being that might be enough. I am going to maybe already inject the whole meeting service because I created it already. And I controller final meeting service this dot meeting service equals meeting service. Et voilà. Et voilà, our controller is ready. Of course, none of this will work. But this, okay, my meeting service doesn't have a get all, so I guess I have to create a get all method, yeah. Oh, damn, and then I would have a, okay, no, for the time being, I can just make a public list, which is completely, whoop, as no type, which is really bad to do this. Throw new unsupported operation or not implemented. I guess I'm not implemented. But it's the Apache language not implemented. I think it's unsupported actually. That is Java's way. Because I mean, like, not implemented, like, what does it even mean? I mean, why do you really even need this? I mean, like, in my case, yes. This class was initially added in line 2.0, was removed in 3.0, and then they added again in 3.2. Interesting. The question is just like, I mean, like, do you really need it? A not implemented exception. Like, should you not implement it? How come? I mean, in my opinion, an unsupported operation is much more effective. You say like, well, I don't support this operation. Well, I mean, you probably don't support it for a reason. I mean, like, if you want to support this, then you should have implemented it or make sure that you can't do it. I mean, like, it's a bit weird. Anyway, so this will this work? No, because my endpoint doesn't exist at all. So that makes sense. And then I have to here say this is a public response of, I'm going to do string for the time being. Get all, that's small. And then I say return response.ok. Is it not a response? Response entity, that's the one. Right, response entity dot okay. I'm just not gonna return anything right now. I'm just gonna say like yes, 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 whatever you want, it's fine. Get mapping, yeah, that's not very useful. Thank you, Visual Studio. And so now this actually should kind of work, except Sir J might complain about a mock that is not being done. Okay, yes, this should be a string, it should be a list. And then instead of here, this, I can just say collections.empty list. I'm actually going to do it differently. I'm going to do final list meetings empty list. Even here is also some so what's going on here as well. Oh, well, there is some reason to actually change this as well, because I have, and for good reasons, there are people who don't like to return a list as the root of the object. And why is that? Because I have had actually the situation which, as I said, with, it's weird, I have a sub that's not being called, and my thingy doesn't care about it. So it seems to be have some, normally Mockito should complain about it, but maybe that's because this is being created differently, that he doesn't care about it. Normally you should complain about saying like, oh, this is not good. So this is something I have to check in my other tests as well to see whether this is the behavior that I currently have in all my tests, because I don't like that. I'm a fan of strict limit. How the hell do I format my code again? I keep forgetting my shortcut. What is it? Is it run? No, it's view. Is it select? Is it edit? Selection? Where did I find it? Oh, right click, format. And that's the one. Format document. Control Shift I. Ah, right, it's I. I'm so used to having F for format that I don't know where I would stand for. Indent? Could it be indent? It's not just the indentation you're changing, but mostly just the indentation, I guess. Anyway, so this works, but this is a bit funky. This is something I have to check in my other. I guess this will in my tests to see whether this makes sense or not. But for the time being, so this is fine. Anyway, so what I was saying is that the response being a list, there are people for good reasons that don't like it. because your response, as you see here, and I can actually show it better in the other one. This is the actual organizational control. I don't need this. I need this. You will see that the explicit response, of course, obfuscates it a bit. But so the response here, it actually is a, no, you can't really tell. But so it is an array. And that's the root of your response, the array itself. And of course, in a, let's do Control Shift A that I've just learned, yes. So in an array, this will be your JSON, and then I will have here, I will have objects in here. Objects. And so the thing is, it is perfectly fine to do this. I mean, like, nobody is against this. The problem is that for extensibility or for future proofing, this also might not be the best, because here you have ID something, v1, here you have font width ID 2, and adding more information to every meeting, that is perfectly fine. That's not a problem. You can do that. The problem, however, becomes if you want to add more, just more information or change something. For instance, let's say we now have this list. Okay, but you want to add pagination. Oh, well, that's problematic because you can't edit. You can't change anything because the root's well, you can change it, of course, but you have to change the entire response, which then, I mean, it's not a problem, but like on the whole concept of backwards compatibility and making sure that you don't, your clients can handle old messages. If you already prepare and you say, for instance, here is content, and that is an array, but the actual thing is an object, then if you want to introduce pagination, for instance, later, or you want to add some other status or something else, then you can simply add it. You can add the field. I can here say total, and actually in total you have like 200 meetings. Okay, and then I have the page, for instance, and you say, well, actually you're on page 3 right now, and then you can have a page size of 25. So, which of course would mean that there should be 25 responses, of course, and not 2, because there are 200. But it doesn't matter. But so this you can easily change, and then whether or not you actually do pagination or not. Okay, if you do pagination, your client should probably be able to handle pagination. So that's a bit of a bad example. But just having this allows you to add more. An array is more, you can't add stuff to an array because your client won't be able to handle it. Whereas if you already say like, well, it will be an object, and in the object you only have content, and that's the array and nothing else, then later on you can say like, okay, well, but we're not going to only have content. We might also have like a limit something. You say or storage or limit. Whereas you say, okay, I want to get information about my meetings, so give me all my meetings, and then you get all the meetings, and then it will tell you like usage, and then call it usage, or then it will say like usage is like 80%. 80 is the percentage of how many you've used. You could also add more stuff, as in like allowed, like whatever. But so this gives more about like across all meetings. Adding more stuff to a meeting, for instance, here is status, and this is like status would be, for instance, closed. You say the meeting has been done, has been over, the notes have been closed, you can't change anything anymore. And then here you have a status which is preparation. In the preparation stage, actually, no, let me say like stage. Which stage is my meeting? The stage of closed, stage of preparation stage, which means that the meeting hasn't happened yet, but you can already prepare stuff and do things. And I'm just making stuff up. I don't think we actually want to use this, but anyway. And so then the usage can say something more about all of them, as in like, yeah, okay, the usage are how many meetings do we have, what's our limit, and those kind of things. I'm not saying I am going to do this. I'm just saying that I have had cases where I actually want to change And I think what, for instance, could be an interesting thing is, for instance, you have like a notification system. If you say notifications, and you say again, okay, we start with just a simple array. Okay, these are all the notifications you have. And the first notification, and then you have like your ID, 1, and then you have the message. The notification system, of course, you would do a bit more intelligent than just message. You probably don't have types, you want to have things, but whatever. Message, Jackie joined your organization. Welcome them by blah blah blah, something. And then you have the second one. You still have an open task for tomorrow's meeting, for instance. Okay, and so this is all perfectly fine. This is it. My formatting is horrible because that's not how you format, Chris. How do you format? You format like this, of course. Yes, and then your formatting becomes decent again, I guess. Yeah. And of course, then you can say like, okay, well, damn, okay, I have all these messages, but actually I want to keep track of whether they are read or not. So then you have a status, for instance, or a boolean. No, maybe a status, you say you have unread, and then you might have read, but you might also just say like, oh, well, I don't care about read or unread. I might have saying like, no, would you do postponed? You would do a boolean. Read, unread. I mean, like, honestly, that doesn't really matter too much what it is. But so the thing is now you have, okay, if as this list grows, it might be more difficult on your API to actually handle this. What you actually might want to do is you might actually want to organize them. Oh, what the hell did I do? You might organize them by status. So you might say notifications, and then you say an object which says is here the read ones, and then you have a list, and then you have the unread ones. And then you can still include the status read, unread, and whatever in the array. That's perfectly fine, but then at least they're already grouped on your backend. They're organized in your backend, and then your frontend can just say, like, oh, I only want to have the read ones, oh, that's only this. I only want to have the unread ones, oh, that's this. Then, of course, this means that your frontend will have a much harder time to organize them by days or by stuff or whatever, because then he actually has to join two arrays and sort them again. Whereas this, you might have sorted by date. Although I must say that typically I don't do sorting on my backends. Yes, I know. It's pretty bad because sorting on the database can be done very efficiently if you have an index. Whereas if you don't, yeah. So probably notifications is something I probably would sort on date. But for instance, meetings, yeah, meetings you will have like a created on date. It will have like a last updated on or a modified on date. It will have actual planned date. When is your meeting planned? And then you say, okay, on which date should you actually sort? Well, do you want to have the most recently modified ones? That's your recent history. Well, then it's sorted by the modified on. But then again, maybe only if it's modified by you on that time. So maybe you actually want to keep a timestamp per person if you want that. Maybe not for the time being. Let's just assume you just have one modified on date and you say like, well, this is actually the most recently changed or the hot meetings, let's say it like this, and the most recent modified meetings show up first. Well, maybe you actually do want to care more about meetings that have been created recently, like the new meetings, the newest meetings, or the meetings who are closest to you. So I mean, like you can't know, and putting that logic in the backend is cumbersome. It's annoying. It's like okay. Then again, of course, if you want to have, of course, those snippets where you say, like, give me the 5 latest meetings, yeah, then you can't just do a get all and sort it and then filter and whatever and stuff, because it's going to be too much, especially if you do pagination. Then yeah, there's no way you're actually going to have or going to do this. You're not going to do a get all. You're going to have a limiting size, and that's probably something we'll do in the future as well, like add pagination on this because I can imagine this grows way too big. Although then again, I mean, like, this is just a very short overview and it's very quick. It's a lot of data, but I think we will probably will want to add pagination on it with like a limit of like 25 or something. And then with which pagination, of course, you do want to expose all those filters, things like sorting by and those kind of things, because you can't do it in the front end anymore. But anyway, so this is just the reason why you might say like, okay, well, for future proofing, let's already create an object, and in that we're just gonna have one entry, basically, just a content object or the content content field. That's how it's called, content field. Because you're like, yeah, um, if you don't foresee it, then changing it is difficult, especially in public APIs. In a public API, I would definitely do it because, again, coming to the whole V1, V2, you don't need to create a V2 version if you can do whatever you want by just extending your V1. And I think that it should be your first goal, making sure that you don't need a V2 and you can keep everything backwards compatible. That's the easiest for everybody, easiest for you because you don't have to completely duplicate your API with then some minor changes. And it's a meeting for your users as well, for your clients, because they don't have to all of a sudden switch and adapt to everything. They can gradually move on. They can gradually adapt as your API evolves as well. Of course, the important thing is that you don't break an API, which is difficult. It is difficult to have an API that is, well, to keep an API backwards compatible, especially as I said with the whole list thingy. Like, this might already be something where you say, like, yeah, well, yeah, no, we can't. And then of course you can create endpoint. Instead of just saying /meetings, you can, for instance, say, okay, instead of just saying API /meetings, we might add like a query parameter to it or something, where we say by default you will get this result. No, you can't actually. You can't do that because your return entity in Java has to be always the same. In JavaScript, you technically could, but this would not be possible in here. So then you already have to create an extra endpoint, which is, yeah, cumbersome. So this would be something where I would say, like, okay, let's just create a V2, and we messed up. Let's never do this anymore. Let's never just return a list. But yeah, so we'll add pagination to this later because honestly, at the moment, I don't care. It's my private API. Nobody should care except me. Okay, so here, this should fail with anonymous user unauthorized. And I think this will work out of the box as well. Because I don't think, and actually authorized, not unauthorized. Unauthorized is actually unauthenticated. Okay, I actually didn't see the result, but I think it's worked, no? Authenticated. Yes. Okay, and then now I need an extra endpoint that says not unauthenticated, but this actually is unauthorized. No, because without organization. Let's not put like this. And why is that? With is it test user? No, with user. I think it's called with user, with mock user. How do I call this? I've made my own. I create with session. That's how I call it. With session. With mock user is the default one from Spring, but then you have no control over off. Then it will just say like, okay, he is authenticated, but you don't know really. You don't get all the information. I need my principal. So with session, and then here I can say test session dot, and I can actually say the mobile, because this one will not have any. I expect this as well to say is unauthorized. Is it unauthorized? Unauthorized. Unauthorized is a 401. That's the very interesting thing in the status codes, that actually an unauthorized means unauthenticated and the forbidden means unauthorized. It is very interesting how they came up with it, but I guess back then the whole authorization authentication system was not that well established yet. But so if you don't have any organization, if you're not logged in, so you're not logged in fully, then of course you don't have access to this. So I will just say again unauthorized. I will say like you all no, you can't. I can't say, I could say forbidden. This is gonna fail, yes. Why? Because it gives me a 200. I could say you're forbidden. The things forbidden means actually forbidden might be better. Wait, is forbidden better? Let me think. Um, have you authenticated yourself? Yes and no, because you don't have an organization, so you're only partially authenticated, I guess. Are forbidden is something you give, like no matter what you do, you won't have access to it, which is not really true. I mean, like if you just select the right organization, if you have access to it, of course, then you will be allowed organization. But in a certain way, that is kind of re-authenticating, is it not? Then again, it's authenticating the session or not who you are. So I'm going to keep it at unauthorized. So the first thing we do is get principal. Actually, well, this we can't even do because actually this doesn't even make any sense without organization. But I do want to protect it. Is there? I think then I have to change something in my config because here I have authenticated and the user is authenticated. How am I gonna do this? Oh wait, I think there were annotations for it. Wait, add role. For is not a role. I have to check. This is something I have to look into. Have I never done this? I have done this, I think. But then I think I mightn't just have neglected it and said like I don't care about it. But so this is something we still know, and I keep it like this so I know that I have to look into it. Because of course, I mean like the whole thing about the security about seeing only your meetings, that's something that's handled in a lower level, not on this level, of course. He just has to make sure that everybody who calls it actually is allowed to call it. My none works, yes. So then we actually have to start working on the actual core logic. And this will require a lot of changes, or a lot of things. I have to all of a sudden introduce a new file, which is called test meeting, which is an enum, because that's what I always do for my test meeting objects. And then I have this, that's good. Then I still don't know whether I want this, well, probably not like this. And then here I do BDO, new folder BDO, and then I have DTO for the time being. I don't care about DAO yet. My BDO, new file, meeting info.java, and this will be a regular class, that's true. I already know that my meeting info will have a private long ID, and it will have a private string name or title. Do you say the meeting has a name, or do you say the meeting has a title? I wouldn't say topic because I'm going to use topics as my parts. Once you have a meeting, any meeting you can have multiple topics, but your meeting has a certain name, description. What's the name of the meeting? What's the title of the meeting? Isn't it between say the title of the meeting, the name of the meeting? If you think about it actually being a meeting note, then I guess title does actually make the name of document, the title of the document. These are the discussions which in the public constructor. Okay, actually I don't because I didn't make them final, which is stupid. I have to make them final. This is a good question as well. Am I gonna reuse this to create? I think so. So long in here, and then I have to say a public meeting info. And I'm gonna actually make first one with only the name in it, because then this dot ID is null, and this dot name is name. I don't need more. Oh, probably need some getters. Oh yeah, talking about that, I changed my principal, which you'll see later, or you'll see next time, to become a class as well, because I now had to include the organization can be null, and I don't like how records work with nullable objects. Or well, no, I don't like to work with nullable objects. For instance, here ID, if I would say a get ID, I probably would do like something like public optional. Actually, I don't think I've done that for many other objects. Optional long get ID. I should actually do it. Um, and so that's how I typically handle nullability. Like if I know that this can be null, because I didn't check it. I mean, like I didn't hear this. I should also do. Oh my god, I'm writing too much code. I should. Actually, I should even say require non-blank. That's not object. That is validate dot not. This also checks null. Require null. Yes. Okay. So since I don't check ID and ID can be null, I probably want to have like get ID being an nullable object. But that actually does make me think that I didn't do any of that for the organization info and other objects either, which is wrong. Anything that can be null should be wrapped in a optional. Organization user info. Apparently, I don't really use it that much. What? Organization user info. Ah, that's the organization user info. I don't use that much. But organization info, I probably do. Organization info. If I check here, organization info, then in my controller, see here I do get ID. Of course, this ID will always be present. This is create organization. This will always, yeah, this should also be. Of course, you can't guarantee it. The question is just like your organization info, for instance. No, I think it is possible organization info because I think I use organization as info. If I look at my service, and I say create, I want to create here, then this organization info actually will not have an ID. So that's something I have to do as well. I'm gonna add that to thingy. To do make other objects consistent with this. Okay, but so technically now I have to write tests for this as well. And so much more. But so just to say, like for the time being, I'm gonna have an ID, I'm gonna have a name of the meeting, and that's it, nothing else. And then I have my meeting info, so I can import it. And then I need test info as well, and whatever. Okay, I think this is gonna be way too much to do on camera. We'll continue preparing it in the background, and then hopefully next time I can show something more interesting. And I will see you then. Bye.